So I got this TASCAM 4G4 to repair from eBay, and they said it wasn't turning on, and I thought it might be the bad power supply, and I was right. And when I used the correct power supply, it turns on, lights turn on and everything, sound passes through. However, they did not disclose when I went to go test the input jacks. This one works good, but over here we just have a hole. And let me flip this open and show the inside. So when on the other side, once it's open, you can see it looks like the whole jack is completely missing, and the circuit board is cracked. However, I do have a jack, a mono plastic jack, and it looks like it has the same pin size, would fit exactly there. And I think I could attach wires to the circuit board and make this work again. However, I don't have a way to attach this, so I need to figure that out. It's not long enough to fit through the hole and then screw this nut on. So I might have to figure out some sort of adapter and put a screw here. I thought about using an epoxy as well, just gluing it down, and I might do that, but I'm also worried about longevity of that fix. So I actually think there's enough room on the bottom here and here to use some epoxy putty to reattach it to the remaining part of the circuit board, and then solder in the wires. The other option would be to design some sort of mount that goes here and screws into this hole and somehow holds this in place from the back, puts pressure on it. But I think the epoxy might be enough. So I'm going to move forward with the epoxy solution. It just needs to be attached here, like that. The epoxy that I use is this stuff called JB Weld, plastic weld. You knead the two parts together and press it in, mold it into place. It's pretty easy. So this is this part, and I'm going to cover the surface of the TASCAM to prevent any accidental epoxy. 1 second. Okay, I've applied some paper and painter's tape to kind of protect any accidents from happening in that area. I'm taking Q-tip with rubbing alcohol. I'm just going to clean the board. It's IPA, 99%. Guess may as well clean this as well. It's going to go there. I'm actually going to move this whole thing over. All right, I'm gonna take some of this out. It's a two-part epoxy, so there's the middle part and the outside part, and you take some off and mix it together. gets in your hands. So I use this. And so you have to be careful what you touch once you mix it. I'm gonna be pretty generous with my portion, and it's a lot, but I really want this to stick well, so I'm gonna try mixing with just one hand. So now move this over. All right. So I'm gonna take it apart and put some of it here. Let's see how that does. Kind of a lot spilling over. Shit, see, I just got some on the other jack. I have to wipe that off before it dries. Yeah, this is not going great. So it's super important that the pins are still accessible. So to fix that, I'm going to take a chopstick, if I can find it. Make sure I can still solder onto those after this dries. That is not looking great. I have to use. Alright, I'm going to take this glove off because it's getting everything else dirty. And now I'm going to use a knife. Try to clean those pins up. I'm also going to use some rubbing alcohol. First of all, to clean off the other jack. Finger. Clean this off. I do with the don't really know. That's not pretty, but the pins are accessible for soldering. It's pretty much aligned. I guess I could push this onto here to attach it a little more. All right, there you have it. Pray that works. While that dries, I'm going to start the process of cleaning up the transport mechanism. Getting some IPA, Q-tip. Some dust off of here too. All right. Next step is to change the belts on here. There's only 2 belts on these machines. The capstan belt right here and the counter belt. I have a few of the capstan belts in stock. You could always find one from the variety belt kit, but the buying one specifically made for it usually has better performance. Here's one. I like this one from a vendor in New York, but just has a slightly better wound flutter performance. But I'm going to try this other one since this is kind of a salvage machine. Taking the belt off is pretty straightforward. You actually don't need to unscrew anything. You can get the belt right off. It tends to get stuck on these little poles, in there. And when that happens, I use a tool like one of these. Doesn't really matter that much for the old belt. I tend to I always mark the old belt somehow, usually with this red marker, so I don't get it confused with the new belt. I love these markers because they can write on anything. Just compare it to this other belt. Yeah, this other belt actually isn't right. The seller, I think, sold me the wrong belt. So let's go back to the good belt I have right here. Compare it. Yeah, that's more closer. They're about the same size. And to put this one in, it's tricky. Right. It's not. Let me take this off the tripod. So I got it on there. However, it is like up. Maybe rotating this will get it right now. I need to use a tool to push it down. All right, that's seated correctly now. Spinning. Nice. Now all that's left is the counter belt. Again, I'm gonna mark that this is the old one. Take it off. And put in a replacement. One of these. Super easy. And this is like one of the easiest machines to change the belts. All right, now once the epoxy finishes drying, test this out. Actually, I can test out the mechanism now while that's still drying. To test out the mechanism, I'm gonna, well, make sure I get this out of the way and then plug in power. Turn it on. Turn the power strip on. All right, it's moving, that's good. Hit play from underneath. All right, that's stopping. Let's try with an actual tape. Okay. That was happening before I changed the belt. It's like the auto stop is kicking in. There's a rewind. Oh, I'm not sure what's going on there. I need to troubleshoot that. I think I just fixed it. You won't believe it, what was the problem. Let me show you. So, if I remove this again, there's a solenoid in there, and this wire here, right here, was bent over and it was touching something down there. It was like shorting. And that, well, at least when I moved it to prevent it from shorting, the issue is no longer happening. So what I'm going to do is put some tape over those contacts to prevent that from happening. So I put some Kapton tape over those pins and kind of rearranged the wires in there. This little thing was bent up as well, like this. I mean, was bent down and pushing the wire towards the other one. I need to make sure that the wires don't touch as well. But hopefully nothing will move in there once it's put together. The problem happened again, and now it's not. So I might actually need to investigate further, do some research and see how the auto stop works. But it's working right now, and I just tested all 4 channels and they all play back, which is great. And once this cures in about 2 hours, I'll solder that in with some wires and put it together and do some more testing. I'm doing some further digging. I found that this little thing here, this little switch, it affects the auto stop. So I think it might need a cleaning. For example, if I put this little piece of paper in between to prevent them from touching, it does not start playing. So I have a feeling maybe it's like losing contact. So if I hit play, starts to play, and then it automatically stops. Let's see what happens if I like put some pressure on there. It's hard to get there in time while holding the camera. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to clean it with contact cleaner and see if that helps. So I sprayed contact cleaner onto this post-it, and I'm rubbing it there. I didn't want to spray it directly in there because I didn't want to get it on the belt. It looks like something is coming off. Hopefully that's okay. Here's the... Let's see if that helps. I just pressed play and it stopped still. Something is triggering this auto stop. And there's the tape I put. Nothing is touching. Maybe this is touching, like. Let's try bending this. Move away. There, well, let's try. Still auto stopping. Let's try shorting those two. So I just flipped it over and the tape is at the end, so that's why auto stop is probably triggering. Let's see if I put it around. Hit play. I have to stick my hand under there. Alright, now it's playing. Alright, so far so good. I'll let that play through for a while. The epoxy over here is still drying. I see a little bit of gaps in the surface area. I might maybe apply some more. But I did a test to make sure it would fit, and it was kind of a little bit at an angle, but I think it'll work. Alright, it's actually playing through pretty well. It's only been about 3 minutes or so. And this needs approximately another 2 hours to cure. I'm gonna check the bottom of this board for any cold solder joints and then put it back together. Here we go. do actually see some crackage on the power jack, and that's a common point of failure on these machines. So I'm going to touch that up. It's right here. You can see, it's hard to see. Let me get the camera closer. You can see those hairline cracks there. These are okay for the most part, but I also want to clean these jacks while they're exposed. These are all pretty good too. All right, the soldering iron's heating up. I'm going to flux on there as well, just to make it easier. I'll do that one too. These are, you have to be careful with these because there's plastic in there. All right, here we go. And there's little plastic pegs right next to these. If you're not careful, you can burn them and get a nasty smell. That's it. I forgot I also need to solder these pins in. It's really hard to do this stuff while looking through the video screen. So I need to solder that there before I put this together. Should have done this first, but I'm going to apply a little bit of flux to these. Just a tiny bit. Adding some fresh solder. All right, I just soldered them all together, and this is Almost done curing. Gonna let it cure a bit more and then put it together, see if it works. So I just plugged this in and it's working. All the channels are working. Here it is put back together. I'm gonna put a little bit more just to make sure it's extra secure, but it's actually very strong, like cement. All right, here it is working. It's plugged into the new jack. It's pretty solid. Doesn't stand out too much. It's got a nice shiny gold rim. But I will say, I think I'm going to add some epoxy where this jack meets the inside of here, just to give it some extra security from wobbling. Like, you can get a lot of leverage with this, and I'm afraid it might snap it. So I think having that extra epoxy, extra point of contact will make it even stronger. But yeah, there it is. Oh yeah, I've been doing some cleaning on this too with some Windex and microfiber cloth and everything, and I need to remove this. I'm actually going to film the process of me putting the final epoxy. Some gloves on. You can see it's pretty solid. This stuff is really strong. This might be overkill, but better safe than sorry. Let's put some on the back of the jack. That'll just give it, make it attached there a little bit more. Now this is the hard part. I think what I'm going to do is put it around this. So that way, once I put it, mount it, it'll get stuck. Yeah. Alright, let's take these gloves off. Put this in. This will make it harder to disassemble because that piece will be stuck. However, how many times, it's a trade-off, because how many times are you going to disassemble this versus how many times are you going to plug stuff in and out of that jack? And yeah, so now I'm just going to press it in a little bit. It's looking pretty good, actually. Only problem is you can slightly see it through the hole, but it's very minor. I could live with that. pretty good. Once again, I'm going to use some rubbing alcohol very lightly, or IPA rather, to get some of the epoxy off of the part that you can see. All right. All right, that's in place. It's in there, holding it in, extra layer. So now it's attached to this board and to the casing, which is 2 points of contact, much more secure. I feel much more confident in the longevity of that fix now. Okay, that's all done. The epoxy is curing in there. Very hard to see. It's kind of in there, but you know, I think I would take that any day over the risk of it breaking. And yeah, that's it for this video. Hope you learned something. Bye for now.